Oh, hi everyone, and welcome to the Scratticus Academy. We are back with the penultimate episode, which came around real quick, of Doors of Dunera season 3. Yes, now I do know. It's season 3. I'm getting so confused now. Otherwise, before we head around and say hello to these lovely faces here, please check out the links coming up in the chat now. That includes the Discord, where we have a channel just for this. Excuse me. We'd love to hear what you think. Twitter, the next season is starting soon. We have lots of spaces because we've got so many viewer games, lots of D&D related ones and other systems, so please drop Scrat a DM on Twitter. Also, if you've missed out on anything, you can head over to YouTube and catch up. We have all of our games and playlists over there. Also, a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors we couldn't do this without, in the form of Maychan Press. They've released their hardback copy of Dark Matter, and you can see it in the game before this on Maychan Mondays all the way through. So they're currently in a pirate campaign right now, which is amazing. Hero Forge, our other one, they have, I say it all the time, but they really have. They've smashed through 2 million now. It's gone crazy in the best way. They've got more editions coming, more familiars coming. There is just so much happening. Are we on a hype train? We are on a hype train. Thank you. And also, last but certainly not least, the Deck of Many, which, if we get to the final or the 4th level of the hype train, can gift one to every one of these players. And they are the moving magic spell cards. And they also created Humblewood, which may be making a campaign feature next season. Otherwise, let's hop around and say hello to everyone. And as always, we'll start with a very lovely Jagon's Gold. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi, I'm Jay, or Jagon's Gold. I hope everyone is thriving tonight. I play Paula Packer, the dancer librarian, who is very excited to be on this Fladrian airship. And yeah, and she's, yeah, she's excited.
Paula's just excited to be here. It's literally all of us. Len, let's hop down to the lovely Tool School. Oh, hi.
Hello, how are you doing? Can't wait. I am playing Tolan Folk, and this is one of those things where you make a joke to your DM, and then they make them that you say, "Oh no, this is totally canon," and yeah. So I think we're gonna see that tonight. Love you, Alice. It's gonna be so much fun.
I'm ready for that. Like, that's what I'm ready for. Then we're gonna hop over to the lovely Mal. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Excuse me while I try and unmute. I'm Mal. I'm playing Reese Black Ash. He's got things in his past like everyone does, and he's less excited to be on this airship than I think anyone else.
Poor Reese literally arrived in Khan and got dragged everywhere else. And last but certainly not least, the lovely Sarah. Oh, hi.
Hello everyone, I am once again so excited to be back playing this game. I'm This on the internet, and here I play Florence Fetlock, a courier who is just a little bit afraid of heights. So we'll see how she deals with that on this airship.
Poor Florence. Otherwise, we will jump straight in. And you've been on board for maybe just over a day, and you're just about settling into probably the movements of the ship, but it's not very rocky. We've had sort of clear skies ahead. There's been no clouds, no storms, no nothing. If anything, despite the airship being full of so many people, things seem to be fairly quiet. There's sort of chatter here and there. Every now and then you see some children running up and down the corridors, making the most of the fact they're on an airship, and they're looking out the windows, they're pressing themselves up against some of them, sort of pointing and laughing, and then running off again as soon as some of the Valadrian guards walk around the corner. There is this gentle whirring of the engines, which has almost fallen into almost like background noise, like a purring almost, that is a constant sound throughout this airship. And the views are currently of the shattered sea as you leave the land behind and past the Fork Islands out into the open ocean. And it is a real mix of blues and greens, the darks and the lights, and you're very high up. And maybe if you look out and you squint, you can just about see the line that is Valadris, this part of this new continent the ship is heading towards. It seems to be pretty sunny outside. All on the southern side of the ship is very, very bright, and every now and then some of the guards walk around and they pull down these slatted blinds, and half of them are like open blinds. And again, for everything being very advanced technological wise, they've definitely gone for home comforts. So it's not all super practical, but you can see these like shutters and things on all of the outside. And whereabouts would Tollem be? Sort of just after lunch. It's you've had something to eat. How would Tollem spend his time on the ship?
I think when he's not being a curmudgeon and walking around and noting pretty much all the different places that there has been technology that has been used in odd and strange ways that he absolutely does not approve of or thinks are just completely frivolous. And why would someone use these pieces of technology in this way? I think that there are a few things that he acknowledges are very clever, or the proper use of magic, even if it has been dressed up with all this falderall, that he doesn't approve of. That once you get through some of the lace and doilies, that there is in fact good arcane engineering to some of this, but he kind of does it begrudgingly, or it kind of does the well, so and so thought of that first type idea. I think in a weird way, as in his day he made a few innovations himself to see if there's anything of the artifacts and things that he brought back from different ruins that then were turned into sort of household or higher level magics, persistent magics, that to see if they are incorporated anywhere.
Okay. You walk around and you can see this arcane magic sort of it's quite subtle in some places. You know that if you pull back a panel, you would find forms of machine that would be very high tech, but it's masked with this almost like this illusion of home comforts, sort of the luxury, but not in the way that they don't show off the high tech in the way that it's we've got the best of this and it's more that you feel it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And you look around and you see some things that you definitely know of, maybe have tweaked your own version and things like that, whether it's to do with the heating, whether it's to do with the light fixtures, or something maybe you worked into your own home or workshop at some point or played about with. And you can tell how a lot of it is very unnecessary, and you could definitely simplify it and it will probably still work just as well. But you're sort of walking along these corridors in this ship as it goes, and you can see all that ornate decoration. You have those Valadrian sort of guards that every time they look at you, they give you a really big smile and keep walking.
I think he sort of kind of grunts or growls or harumphs as he makes his way. It certainly, as well as enjoying, usually asking always the wrong person to go and fetch him a glass of water or a something. He is unwilling to learn who are the like stewards and wait staff and who's a guard or a ship's officer or whatever.
They do seem to be disgustingly happy, some of them. You get the feeling that most of it is genuine, but every now and then there's a guard that maybe you've asked for a glass of water and it's just like, you can feel the tension in their cheeks and their jaw, just like, yes, of course. Like, you know, you've probably asked this one before and you still don't remember who it is.
He takes a bit of pleasure in that.
And where would you be walking to? Would you literally just wander the ship, or would you be finding somewhere to sit effectively?
I think it's a mix. I think there is somewhat where he goes and explores on his own, but certainly in the afternoons, whether out of habit or anywhere else, he does find himself at wherever there is, I'm sure, a very fancy coffee urn set up in some lounge somewhere. Depending on the weather outside, as you said, it's very smooth sailing, but I think he's more, even if it was a nice day, there still is just the motion of the fact that the ship is moving forward, so there's always a bit of a breeze on deck. I think you'd find someplace a bit out of the wind, either up on deck on that sort of private level, or if there's sort of a cozier place, truly it's going to be where he can find someplace with a big chair and a coffee, and hopefully Averick and Clyde to sort of try to bring a little bit of that routine of the afternoons in Karnan.
You definitely have been told you have access to, I guess it's kind of like a lounge that normally the higher officers would go into, like Axel and Elizabeth, you know that they all go in there. But it's an evening thing, so during the day it tends to be completely empty. And you sort of enter in there, and it's one of those ones we've got the big leather sofas, like the Chesterfield style ones. The ones that are very, very comfy, but at the same time, they look barely sat on. You think half of this is for show. You've even got an open fire, which makes no sense, and you can tell it's magic straight away because the heat's coming off of it, but you can put your hand through it because it's illogical to have an open fire in effectively a balloon. And it's just full of all of these things that you know aren't real home comforts. You know that the smell in this room, it smells of baking for some reason. There's nothing baking, but it's a homely smell that has been like pumped into the room. The coffee is real. You can see that there is, you've probably had some coffee brought to you, but you know that the smell of almost like homemade baking and burning wood fires is being pumped in, so you can't smell a mixture of magic and like gasoline sort of mixed together to keep this ship going. The oil and everything that's sort of gone into it. And there is something that catches your eye in there as you sit, and it's the piping that runs around the window frames and up into the ceilings, which you're guessing is where the smell is coming from. Maybe it's come straight from the kitchens and they literally just pump it around the ship. And there's a moment where you look at just the metalwork itself, how everything is sealed, how everything is intricate, and you follow it until your eyes set on a large round clock on the wall, and you can hear it tick. It's a very intrusive tick, if anything, when it's in a room that silent. But the metal work around the outside kind of reminds you a bit of the compass. It's that same rustic feel, that same look, but you have a feeling the compass is probably actually old, whereas this is the IKEA version.
Right.
Basically.
I think if Averick is around, who's probably ignoring him by this point, of him pointing out all of the things, do you think there's a knob somewhere so we can change from baking to, I don't know, just, I'm so sick of smelling sugar cookies.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you could go down to the kitchen and have an argument with them about it, about how,
I already tried that. They had none of it.
And that's why you're in here. And he sort of looks at you and picks up his own coffee and sits down in the chair opposite you next to this fire.
Tolan grumbles at the faggot.
You just hear it.
Containment spanner.
Mm-hmm.
Containment spanner. Industrial containment spanner. For a long fun.
He has. You can see that.
This is like the fifth time he's told him, complained about the containment spanner.
He's had a day and a half already of walking around the ship and having things pointed out to him with things like this. He's like, so you miss Kanan already, is what you're saying?
I'm saying that I'm probably get in trouble if I start pulling panels off to actually see some of the things that they're using in this ship to do something this impressive. But no, they don't have to let it, the engineering, the thought, the magic,
I'm not pulling wooden panels off for you, Tolan. I'm sure Tuva will if you get her involved, but I'm not doing it.
She actually wasn't able to get them off either.
Well, there you go then. And he sort of, you can see sort of as he rubs his eye and rubs the side of his head, he sort of had a guess that you probably involved Tuva, but didn't ask because he doesn't want to know.
So I have a thought.
Right. Dangerous.
Do you think that dragon breathes fire? Do you think it could get through a panel?
I'm not going to answer that. As he sort of looks at you, he's like, this is, no. You really want to do that? No.
But it would be a...
What? Are you that bored on here? Would you just hate Valadrians that much?
I don't hate Valadrians. I hate Valadrian silliness.
Valadrian silliness.
Well, yes, and there's so much. Did they have to put so much glass in this place? It's like all sky all the time. This is one of the few places where I can actually feel like I've got four walls, a floor, and a ceiling around myself.
I know, I must check on Florence. I don't think she's actually that keen on heights. As he sort of like eyes sort of wander for a moment, having a thought, and he's like, you were a seeker. You must have been so into all of the Valadrian discoveries
never.
and stuff, though.
No, never. This, seriously.
And there's an awkward smile at the sort of the side of his lips. Thank you, Michael, for that donation for the 24. Was it Tolan? I missed it. Yes, for Tolan.
Oh, thank you.
And he looks at you very quizzically, and he's like, "It's okay if you did."
Me.
I'm sorry.
To get involved in all this.
Yeah. No, stupid question.
Literally, there is a good 30%, 50% of everything that they built that is absolutely 100% unnecessary, serves no purpose. The elegance of what we do is a concise, clear specificity to the thought that you pair with the invention to lock the two together. It is the whole purpose is like it's a key in a lock.
Oh no, I get that, because you said this to me yesterday over lunch.
Yes.
It's interesting. I'm not saying that.
Yes.
And he gives you like a smile, and it is like a soft smile where he gets it. He gets that you're frustrated.
Yeah. Thank you for putting up with me.
It's not putting up. I'm just reminding you where you are and not to rip wooden panels off of the wall.
Well, that's part of the problem. It's where I am. It's my first time leaving Karnan since. And
I know it's going to be difficult. You were a seeker for so long, and technically you still are.
He looks at him with a sort of pursing his lips.
Mm.
Yes, of course, I'm still a seeker.
Well, did you really think you'd be on an airship? Isn't it exciting in some way that you're going to be doing this all again? You used to tell me you loved this kind of thing.
Well, I did. I mean, we both did. I mean, we never did it quite in this manner. But that's all different now, and it's so posh and comfortable.
Well, then what was it like?
Well, I mean, even with us, it was bent tin cups and burnt coffee on campfires out in the desert before, as we'd go sifting through an old ruin to find something that no one had ever seen before. Find a new way to look at the problems that had defeated so many other seekers before us, to bring back that piece of technology, that wonder of magic and thought, to make something new, even if it was just some silly new appliance for the populace of Karnan. It was still something new and ours.
And I get that. So let's just do that again. Get that excitement back. The one you used to have.
Before he answers, and he just looks and then finally says, I'll try.
That's what I can ask. And he takes a sip from his coffee. And with that, you can sit back in like this leather high wing back chair. It is very comfy, which almost annoys you even more, I'd say, that it is actually comfortable.
I think there's the thing is, I totally Averick would catch him is that there's a moment where he's about to really just, nice chair type, and then he realizes that he refuses to enjoy this chair that he is obviously enjoying.
And as you do try to
not enjoy the great chair,
like the comfort of the chair, we are going to go into a flashback back to Karnan many, many years ago. And it's a fairly sort of warm day. It's there's a breeze, and if anything, you can hear lots and lots of bustling, lots and lots of people getting ready for some festivals, for the night market. And there is this real greenery everywhere. Like, Karnan is so full of life at the moment. All of these buds, all of these flowers everywhere. And you've just got back to Karnan. And how old is Tolan? And what does he look like? And what is he wearing?
Tolan is 19, having basically just turned 20. He is full of himself. He is striding back into Karnan as though the victor the champ, like he just won the Super Bowl. He is walking into Karnan. He is probably about 6'6" to 6'7" feet tall, using his shaping skill. Very broad, very chiseled physique. His hair is somewhat blonde, and he has a well-trimmed beard. He is the Tolanized picture of Valadrin. He is wearing from head to toe the latest in Valadrin Seeker fashion, as he marches past the tree towards Castachinos, basically greeting people along the way, reminding them who he is, and that he has returned once again to Karnan.
And you stride through Karnan with that sort of almost air about you. You do get looks, and people know who you are. And they you get a lot of smiles, you get a lot of hellos and greetings. Every now and then someone comments on the clothes you're wearing, because it is the latest Valadrian look. And that's not something that's necessarily easily accessible in Karnan. So you do stand out. And you walk down these cobbled streets, and you you don't approach, but you can definitely see it in your eye line. The huge steps of this church, you can see churchgoers going in and out as this very grand, almost cathedral-like building. And you recognize someone coming out of the church, and they seem to be moving in a bit of a hurry. They look a bit frustrated, a little bit, not disheveled, that's the wrong thing, they look tired. As you see Edric hurrying down the steps out of the church itself, and he seems to be like grumbling to himself. He's in a long coat, he's in boots, and these dark trousers. Seems to be he's got these big pockets on his coat that seem to be full of everything. They seem to be constantly full of things, and he's hurrying down these steps like grumbling to himself, and he almost walks straight into you, and you feel like this, he sort of actually knocks you at the side, and he looks at you and then looks up. He goes, Tolan, you look different. Can't hear you.
I think he looks down, and there is a moment where he's like, Mr. Almost says Mr. Mellon, and then he's like, Edric Tolan Falk, it's good to see you. How are you?
Yes, no, I'm absolutely fine. How are you? This is a look. This is a look. And he sort of ruffles his own hair, and you see it change into a very sort of black, thick, sleek, sort of not mess, but it is sort of all over the place. He's got his glasses up, sort of tucked in the hair somewhere, and he looks at you, straightening his jacket a bit, and he's like, "You seem to be doing very well for yourself in the seeking business at the moment, I see."
Oh, yes, just back into town. How, well, I guess you're a bit more tied down now, aren't you? The old ball and chain with family life and all. So sorry that we don't see you out in the field like we used to. But I've been picking up the slack for you, bringing in just about my 8th new artifact that I've brought in from down south.
So I heard. I've just come back from somewhere myself, but being a family man now, I'm trying to keep things more private, spend more time with the family. And he looks at you in a weird way, almost like he doesn't quite know the person in front of him.
Oh, balance. Yes, good for you to find balance. That's always an important thing. And don't you worry. I'm out there making sure that we still keep all those new, all the new findings taken care of out there.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. And that is fantastic. And you must be becoming coming of the age soon where you're going to take an apprentice of your own, surely, or are you a bit too?
I'm independent for a while, I'm sure. Not quite ready to bring anyone else into the fold. Not sure if they can keep up, so to speak. Speaking of keeping up, you're looking a bit haggard. Shall we, can I buy you a coffee?
And he looks at you up and down from him. He's like, yeah, why not? Buy me
smiles and waves to someone behind him.
And he sort of like looks behind to see who you're waving at, but he's like, it's yeah, I know, like he's just looking around. It's just a load of church officials that are like looking at you funny. He's like, okay, I'll take that coffee, please. That sounds delightful. Maybe you can tell me a bit more of your adventures.
Oh, yes. Let's back to the old haunt, shall we? Normally I take my coffee at one of the finer establishments, but for old time's sakes, Castaccino's?
Yeah, my favorite. I like as I said, the old ball and chain likes that one. So I'll let her know that you remembered her.
I don't think we've ever had the pleasure of meeting, just often seen you running off, talking into your phone, I'm sure, as she, with shopping, I believe. Always an adventure, shopping.
You could say that. It's some kind of adventure, I'll give you that. But that coffee, let's
well, sure, let's, yes. And head past the season tree and over to Castaccino's.
Yeah, he walks in quite confidently and he gives a wave to the woman behind the bar, and he's like, could I have my usual please? And Tolan, what would you?
Oh, could I get a double half-caste Valadrian with the Northern Coast milk?
And this is yes, of course, it's our speciality. And Edric's like, black coffee, please, and starts to walk over. And he sits down at the same table you sat at when you were younger, just maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And he looks a little bit awkward, but he does smile. He looks like he's walked out of a frustrating situation and he's starting to calm down. He's everything is going well, then yes. And you can see he's quickly sending a message on his phone, which he pulls out. and puts it back in his pocket.
Everything all right, old boy? You're looking a bit flustered.
Yes, just I had to drop a message to one of my friends. Just letting them know I was supposed to meet them in a bit, so just letting them know where I am. Just clearing up some things at the church, you know how it is, how I work with the church here and there. Frustrating, you know, when you have to close something down, clear something up. It's you know, just came back from up north myself, so I was just, you know.
How are things going up north?
Snowy. Still cold. It's all good.
You found something. You don't have to tell me about it.
And he just sort of, he's giving you a real look, and you know he's normally more confident. It's more the fact that you've taken him by shock with your appearance, your attitude, and everything that's changed since you were last here. And he's like, you know, standard expedition.
You can tell me.
Actually, I can't.
Oh, fine then.
And he laughs to himself. He's like, you should go north at some point.
North's been done. It's been done 100 times.
Not all of it.
Ugh, everyone always says, oh, but there's more to see, there's more to see. There's more ice to see.
Well, and he sort of gives you a try and say, I'll keep the north to myself then. What's so exciting about the south?
Are you kidding? The ruins in the south, there's always something new. The desert swallowed so much of it. It's like every time I've gone down there, it's something entirely different, something new. All of the different ruins, every time it's like seeing something that you've never seen before. Not to mention, if I do say so myself, some of the other seekers who've been there were a bit sloppy. Imagine the things that I found that were just left behind, passed over, or not realized what they were even looking at. Yeah, someone has to clean up the messes.
I can imagine. So you really liking, and he looks you up and down. You must love Valadria.
Well, they do make all of the finest things.
Of course, you know. But it's a bit too fancy for me, I'll be honest.
Well, why would you not, once you've made it, why wouldn't you indulge a little bit?
All the faff. Like, just all the unnecessary things on top of it. But you can appreciate art. That's fine.
You just don't understand it, obviously.
And he sort of has a bit of a nod. And
I just gotta stop for a second. I hate myself.
The coffee arrives. This woman comes down and sort of places your two. So, she reads out your order in a very, very long. She actually has it on a piece of paper, and reads it out. And she enters and the milk and places it down in this what looks to be a silver jug, a very, very small one, because apparently that's how it's supposed to be served. And then you see this black coffee get put down, and Edric just sort of gives her a bit of a smile. And could you roll an intellect check?
Oh, golly.
Please.
Oh, no. Oh, golly. Actually, I had to reset my roll 20, so give me half a second.
No worries.
There we go. 19.
Okay. You see something as Edric reaches out, and he reaches out with his hand, and by that his sleeves go up as he rolls them up to reach up for the coffee. And just on something you haven't seen before, there's a small tattoo of a magpie and 2 crossed swords. And as soon as his sleeves go up, he sort of quickly rolls them down, not thinking anything of it. It's like, looks at you briefly to see if you noticed, but that he sort of doesn't seem to think unless you want to be like, oh, hey!
No, I think Tolan, because he does feel as though Edric is hiding something. I mean, seekers, you know, there is some competitiveness there. So I think Tolan makes a big deal of this milk pitcher, and that finally someplace that knows the proper way to bring out Valadrian dairy.
He slides his hand away and holds it up with a cup of coffee. Yes.
So the church, I must say, I've had some run-ins myself. I've become a bit of a freelancer now. The academy and the church have both seem to, I've had twice things I brought back get nabbed by them and repurposed for things I don't approve of. So now I bring things and luckily have enough pool to take things to my lab first and get them locked in for their purpose. What would you be doing with the church? I know they had quite a bit of interest in you. Those in the papers a few years back.
You must know I'm handing in my resignation.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't think you could resign from the church.
You can't really, but I plan on moving. I want my family to have a different lifestyle.
Moving from Carnan?
Correct.
Or just to Old Carnan, then?
No, I plan on leaving Carnan, and I'm just tying up some loose ends.
Well, where in the world would you go?
I'm heading down to Cornesi near Serrani. It's warm down there, there are beaches, and it's a good lifestyle.
Cornesi is certainly nice.
Fairly straight, like you can, or it's not a rehearsed line, you know he's telling the truth, but he looks quite serious about it. It's not like he's sounding super excited or anything.
Edric and Mel off to retire.
Oh, I didn't say I was retiring.
And he looks a little bit downfallen. There was a predatory smile at the idea that Edric and Mel was retiring. And so his face drops, Tolan's face drops a little bit. Oh, well, yes, of course. So you'll be home based in the South then.
Sometimes.
Just Tolan's mind reeling with the idea that's sort of where he's marked out his future.
And there's a quirk that feels like the old Edric you met last time, very quickly, like a flash across his eyes. He's like, well, I couldn't let all the new up and coming young seekers have it all, could I?
And I think at that admonishment, there is a piece of Tolan's old fanboy of Edric that kicks in, that he's potentially overplayed his hand and is now where he was trying to seem Edric's equal, suddenly finds himself that maybe he's overplayed. Oh, well, we had actually, your leadership in the South would be most welcome.
And he gives you a smile, but he's like, Seeker's not about leadership. About going out there and finding something. You don't even have to bring it back.
Not bring it back. Well, but then it's just a story if you don't bring it back.
And you do notice he looks down at his sleeve. Sometimes they stay better that way. don't you think? Something a bit more magical about that. Because once we discover everything, then people like us die out.
Well, I think there's plenty to discover to fill many lifetimes out there. Heck, we've had to rediscover so much. Eventually, we'll start not just repurposing the old, but creating the new.
And as you say that, he looks you up and down again. It's like, I am always discovering new things. But he gives you a smile, and you can tell it's a warm smile. Like there's a grin there. And as he sort of scratches the back of his head again, you can you see his hair shift back to that dark brown sort of color as it sort of just flops to the other side. And there's a ring at the door as someone walks in, and he stands up. And in the doorway is a man, a tall man who takes off his hat with a long coat on. And in sort of sat on his hip in his arms is a small child, maybe 3-4 years old. And this man walks over. Edric stands up, smiles at him, gives him a hug. And you can see this sort of hi, as he reaches for the little one and scoops this child into his arms with a sort of a grin and sort of a coo and a whisper. And he's like, oh, Tolan, this is my friend, Tom.
Nice to meet you, Tolan Folk. And all of the walls and bravado pop back in.
This man takes off the hat. You can see a small bear pin sort of pinned at the side. He's like, oh, very nice to meet you. He as he holds his hand out and shakes it very vigorously. You feel as much as he's shorter than you and more stout, you feel this handshake. You feel this very rough handshake. And Edric sort of shifts the little one up onto his hip, and he's like, he's basically my researcher now. He's very, very good at it.
Oh, that's always handy. I do my own research myself. I find more.
and he smiles. He's like, well, now I have my home life to contend with, and my son here. Then I'm going to have to hand off some of the information searching for good old Tom. And he sort of slaps him on the back, and Tom gives him a bit of a grin. Anyway, coffee has been great. We should do this again. Maybe you'll even come down to Cornesi and have a proper coffee.
But next time you pass through, as I head to some of the ruins down by Dorween, perhaps we'll make a stop through.
And he smiles, and you sort of see that this little hand come up and grab Edric's like collar, and you can just hear that voice saying "Daddy" as he sort of pulls away, and he's like, "Yep, I'm coming," and he sort of starts to turn away, and he's like, "I'll see you soon, Tolan, Folk."
Yes, I'm sure you will.
Okay, come on, boys, and he sort of walks out of the door and closes it behind him, and we are going to come back out of that flashback, and it's almost like a memory that's come back to you, Tolan, as you sit there, and Averick is falling asleep.
Tolan physically shudders as he comes out of this, almost like just pushing away this, there's almost like he's put that whole part of his life in a box. It's like, it's the Facebook photos that you'd erased, hoping that no one would ever find. And I don't know what brought it back for him, perhaps that little bit of a raised eyebrow that Averick gave him, questioning him about Valadrian. But yes, it's one of those, Tolan's Valadrian phase. But having sort of sealed that away. He had forgotten. There was something in his brain that he had seen that symbol before. And there's so many pieces that fall into place. Tom, now realizing who Tom is, even the hat, I think probably he almost wonders why that didn't trigger the memory before, but he looks down at that hat, Tom's hat, and realizes where he saw it the first time, again, thinking he'd always just seen it hanging on Aggie's hat stand. And then thinks of Paula and her father, and that it wasn't 6 months after that the papers were reporting how Edric Amell was gone.
And we will hop over to Reese. Reese, there is where would Reese be on a ship? Like where would Reese be, maybe not comfortable, but where would he at least try to be comfortable?
Reese, actually, he'd be out on whatever deck he can get out on as often as he could, and he'd be like, he'd pull up a chair and he'd watch the water, and he would sit and smoke his pipe, and he would actually whittle.
You can sit up on top deck, this huge view. People seem to be keeping very much away from you, more because Astrid is sitting behind you, very almost protectively, which gives you this quiet space, if anything. And you look out with this huge glass dome, looking out over this ocean, and you watch, almost right by your face, except for the glass dome stopping, these huge birds fly past. And you normally see these in the north in the summer, and they fly past, leaving the north towards Carnan. And you know that the winter is settling in, and Astrid sort of sits around your feet. You can hear her snoring, like this heavy breathing, this sort of mumble grumble every now and then. You see that out of the corner of your eye, a kid starts to like creep close every now and then, and there's a slight growl that comes from her lips. Not anything harmful, but you get the idea maybe she's amused by the fact that they think that she can't see them as they try to sneak up. And you're sat there whittling. And what's going through Reese's head at this point?
I think he feels like there's a lot of people in this journey, let alone like the amount of people on the ship, but just this expedition, so to speak, has grown quickly. First it was Reese and Tolan and Paula, and then it was Charlie in the church, and now there's Tuva and the dragon and Averick and Florence and Matthias. Like, there's a lot of people in this adventure all of a sudden, and he's not unhappy with it, but he's been traveling on his own with just Astrid for so long that he's not sure that it's the best idea to bring all of these people. He doesn't know what they're going to discover or what's going on.
And you sit there, and there is a faint whir, not just of the engines of this ship, but you can see the other airships in the distance. Quite a way away, but you can see them sort of dotting about in the sky. And every now and then you hear like a woof, like a gust of air, and sort of a flap of material, as you hear a yell from one of these like tin pipes, and there's a squeak of like a pulley being pulled somewhere, and this sail changes direction. And it tips you slightly, very slightly, but enough to look down on the ocean. A few more ships below you. And you sort of sit, I guess, in silence for a little bit until you feel a tug at your sleeve. And you do also notice that Astrid didn't alert you as she's been sort of growling at the other children. As Tuva stands there in this ridiculously oversized denim jacket, a homemade sewn-in pocket, which you can see moving. Brenna, her Anarque, sort of sat perched on her shoulders, and she's looking out at the view. And she's like, "Why are you sat on your own?"
I like to be on my own. I'm used to it.
Why?
Why am I used to it, or why do I like to be on my own?
She takes a real moment to think.
First one.
I think it's just become comfortable.
So am I making you uncomfortable right now?
No, that's not
Okay.
what I mean. And he stops and he looks at what he's been carving, and he like blows on it to knock the shavings away, and he has one of the birds that has flown by. It's rough because there's no way for him to sand it, but he once he thinks it's clean enough, he offers it to Tuva. What do you think?
I really like it. I couldn't do that.
Do you want this one?
For me?
Yeah, if you want it.
Yes, please.
And she sort of reaches out and she takes it as if it was made of glass. And she's holding it up. And you see her hold it up next to the birds flying past, as if she was trying to see how similar they are together. And she's like,
Thank you.
and she hands it up to Brenna, who sits there, sort of clings to it a little bit.
My mum said that you have to be uncomfortable to progress. You know, step outside your comfort zone kind of thing. I don't really know what she meant, but I'm pretty uncomfortable right now.
Why are you uncomfortable, Tuva?
Well, we're up in the air with all of these things going on. And
she sort of leans in. He's like,
and don't tell Paula, but I'm actually a bit nervous about going to Valadria.
He kind of leans in. He's like, why are you nervous about Valadria?
and again leans in a bit closer. He's like,
You've heard how Tolan is talking about Valadrians. Like, they don't sound that great.
They're not that bad, really.
No?
No. They're just people like us.
Apparently they dress too fancy.
I mean, some people like to dress fancy. Look at me, I'm wearing leather.
True. Is that fancy?
No.
Okay. I'm
It's
not sure
warm.
what fancy is.
Well, you look at like the people working on the ship, the people from Valadria. Even their uniforms are fancy.
Yeah, but all uniforms are fancy. Florence's uniform's kind of fancy. It's got a scarf and everything.
That's true. You're completely correct. But if you look at Florence's uniform versus the Valadrian airship people uniform, there's a pretty big difference.
True. That is true.
And again, you see with every thought, she's really absorbing this information. Like, she's trying to take everything on.
I just got told off by one of them guards. Twice, actually, now. It's only been a day.
What were you doing?
Well, one of them was necessary. I had to get some more food for you-know-who.
And she sort of like ducks her head towards her pocket.
And I did ask, but the other one wasn't my fault. It was Tolan's fault. He wanted me to get those panels off. I thought it was all right if an adult told you you could. Why are you laughing?
He's like looking at you with genuine concern. Like, I don't understand.
I don't think that Reese would laugh. I'm laughing, but I don't think even if Reese found it funny, he would not laugh because Tuba's being serious.
Tolan is bad uncle. He is the worst uncle ever. He is the uncle who gets everyone in trouble.
He said there was something real important underneath, that we didn't need all the fancy shell on the outside.
Tuba, do you know the difference between an engineer and an artist?
Doesn't one paint and one make stuff?
But don't they both make stuff?
I suppose. Uncle Kamaka used to make loads and loads of stuff, and I mean everything. He's done he's like Mom used to call him the jack of all trades and master of none. I thought he was pretty good at it though. And he did get me a Silvus.
Is that where that came from?
Mm-hmm. They wouldn't let me take it on the airship though. Apparently something wrong with the antlers. That's what Mum said.
I mean, I met your mom. She seems pretty smart.
She is smart. She can be grumpy, but she's smart. She even gave me some recipes before I left, you know, because apparently I shouldn't trust Valadrian food. They won't feed me enough. That's what she said.
I mean, did you see those portions up in that dinner the other day?
Yeah, what was that on top?
Oh, that was dill. The green stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was dill.
I didn't like that. Nor did the dragon. I mean...
It sort of looks around briefly.
My friend.
Anyway, what I was trying to say is Tolan's an engineer, and the Valadrians, I guess, are artists. That's the best way I can simplify it.
They make stuff that works.
They both make stuff that works. Tolan's
like
the kind of
artistic engineers.
Yes. Tolan is all about function. This thing does this. It doesn't have to look away. It just does what it's supposed to. Valadrians, they want it to do what it's supposed to, but they also want it to look as fancy as they can make it.
Like Florence's uniform. It's practical, but it's fancy.
Kind of, yeah. And then they figure out how to make that more fancy. And they keep going until they're finally satisfied and everyone else thinks it's ostentatious.
I think I get it now. So I debated asking Axel the same question, but I haven't had a chance yet.
If you do, I'd be interested to hear how he explains it.
I'd be interested too. Also, that arm he's got, I don't know if it's impolite to, ask, but it's amazing. You should have seen him earlier. He can lift things up with just one arm. Hello, Raiden.
Hello, Raiden. That's how in character I get. Hello, Raiden. And you can see
Axel's really quite cool, actually.
Yeah, is he cool?
And his Inarqui is really nice as well.
You know, I don't have a lot of experience with Inarqui.
I hope it's not rude, but I was gonna ask, why do you have Astrid? Because I have Brenna.
And he sort of points to this little red panda that's sort of like glowing on the side of her shoulder. And it's looking at this bird. Like you can see it sort of like licking it, gnawing on the end of it, like having a real look.
But are you like, I don't know, are you given one as a present? Are you born with one? Like what happens?
Well, where I come from, it's more common that people don't have Inakwai. And you don't get a red wolf just for anything. It's rare, it's special.
I mean, she looks pretty
Astrid.
special.
I think she's very special. He pauses for a moment. I won't go into the details, but I had a sister, Tuva. She was much younger than I was, and when I lost her, I got Astrid instead.
She looks a little bit confused, but she can sense the almost like the sadness there. And she sort of sits herself down cross-legged by your chair and sighs.
I lost my dad. Is that like, did you lose your sister like I lost my dad?
I think so.
I mean, I didn't get an Astrid afterwards, but I can see how it would have helped. But then I had Brenna, and you didn't have one of them.
That's a good way to look at it.
Do you still miss her?
Every day.
And she nods slowly. She sort of looks up at these birds.
Does it get easier?
Yes and no. It never goes away, but you learn how to live around it, I guess.
Okay.
She sort of pauses for a moment.
You know, I think that's why Mum's grumpy a lot of the time.
That's probably true.
Because like she gets real grumpy, like proper grumpy. I don't even just mean like a little bit. I mean real. You know. She actually used to be kind of like Uncle Kamaka. Well, not that chilled out, but she was more relaxed. She used to be really badly behaved too, according to my uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently she was the real troublemaker. Used to get him in trouble all the time. And then she met my dad.
Did she get your dad in trouble?
You know, I think she did. But I'm not sure, because I think he was a bit of a troublemaker as well. And then when he left, or you know, wasn't there anymore, that's when we moved to Kanan. Because, you know, you leave places when sad things happen in them.
A lot of people do, yeah. That's what I did.
Kanan's not really my proper home, honestly. It's sort of, I don't know if that, and not only that, the school is rubbish there. Again, don't tell Paula, but like I don't like the classes or anything. You try to make me learn stuff that I'm never going to use.
Like what?
Maths. What is the point of maths?
And she sort of starts to go on this little bit of a rant about maths. And she's like,
And then, they tried to show me how to use my own shield technique. Me. I've already mastered it. Why do I have to sit through a class and then prove it in exams when I can clearly do it? Can't always do it in exams. It's too much pressure.
Well, I don't know what that's really. I've never been to that kind of school, but I promise I won't tell Paula.
Don't go to that kind of school. I used to sneak out all the time. It was so much more fun at my old school. And when I say old school, I mean I wasn't really old enough to, do proper school yet, but they'd take you outside and you'd learn stuff like that. Practical stuff, and then here they stuff you in a classroom. Which, by the way, they shouldn't put drain pipes right by the window because they're really easy to shimmy down.
I believe it.
Yeah. It's colder in Kanan as well. And apparently it's even colder in Valadria.
And it's even colder further than that.
She sort of frowns.
Mum put so many layers on me before I left, and I'm not. Uncle Kamaku used to call me the summer baby, and I like summer, and I like the heat, and that's where I will go back to someday. I'll go back to the Summer Isles, and I will stay there. And I will raise...
And she sort of gestures to her pocket again.
I'm gonna take her to like the waterfalls and the beaches and the stuff like that. And then it'll be fine.
When you go back, can I visit you?
If you want. I won't have a very big place. All the houses there are very small, but...
I spent a week on the beach. Yeah, I'll be fine.
You can come inside.
I'm just saying, I'm not... I understand if you don't have a lot of space. That's what I mean.
You have the feeling this kid has planned everything. And has probably planned it for a long time.
Don't tell my mum. But it'd be really cool if I opened a noodle bar in the summer hours. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Kind of want that.
She turns and she sits in silence for a bit. And every now and then you hear like a scuffle from her pocket. Astrid gets up, sort of sits in between you and Tuva, mainly so that Astrid can be closer to this dragon in the pocket because she's snuffling around the pocket.
Do you think this dragon will get big enough for me to ride it? Just a question, I'm just asking. I don't know a lot about dragons, but you're like older, like old and smart.
I don't know how smart I am, but I'm certainly older. I
think you're smart.
Thank you.
How else have you been alive for this long on your own?
I suppose that's true. I don't know how big the dragon will get. It's not really something I've looked into a lot.
No, me neither, but it's something I plan on researching.
Well, I hear Valadria's got a great library.
I'm not really a reader. I'm hoping someone can just tell me.
Well, if we go to the library, maybe someone will tell you about a book they read.
Will you read it for me? You can read to me, I just don't want to read it. I struggle with words and stuff.
He reaches across Astrid to her. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, if we find a book you like that explains what to do with the dragon, I'll read it to you.
I like the ones with pictures and diagrams. It's much easier.
I'm sure we'll find lots of interesting books.
Do I have to eat more Valadrian food in Valadria?
I'm sure it'll happen, but I bet Valadria is big enough we can find them trying to do other places' food.
I really hope so, because I can't eat what they eat in this ship all the time.
Well, I mean, if your mom taught you recipes, maybe we could cook.
I could do that.
You could teach me.
Me teach you? No, it's a family secret, sorry.
She looks genuinely protective over it. Like,
Oh, I didn't realize it was that kind of.
Yeah.
I understand.
It's all up here. That's why. Can't let anyone have it. Mum said.
Well, we can. You can cook for us, maybe, and we'll. I don't know. Paula's got a phone, right? We can send your mom pictures of you cooking. I bet she'd like that.
Yeah. Maybe she would like that. Also, I want to get I haven't got a phone I've got a phone, but it's not a very good one, and I kind of want to take photos of everything. So I'm gonna see if Elizabeth has a spare one,
and you can get the hint of, is this stealing? Is this borrowing without permission? Is it that sort of thing? But she doesn't linger on it for too long. And she looks like she's about to say something else when Astrid does perk up, does sort of jump to these heavy paws. So these heavy footsteps come along, and before you see the owner of those footsteps, you see this huge purple lynx with this sort of wisp of magic around it as Axel walks forward. And he gives you a big smile, and he's like, enjoying the view?
Very much.
Fantastic. It's a wonderful view. Like the sea, like the ships, like to be in the air, not good on the ground. How about you? Are you good on the ground, or are you good in the air?
I mean, I think I prefer the ground, but this is fine.
Ah, see, I don't see it as fine. It's wonderful. Free.
I mean, that's true.
I mean, look at all those ships out there. And you see him point with this huge mechanical arm. And he sort of smiles. He's like, I want to say thank you for coming along. And I want to say thank you for helping Elizabeth when I wasn't there that evening.
He's gonna argue, and he stops himself. You're welcome. I mean,
thank you. Credits where credits due, as he notices your awkwardness.
Reese is gonna try and change the subject.
What are you changing it to, Reese?
So Reese is just like, Axel, if it's not too much bother, my friend here, and he motions to Tuva, is really interested in your arm. Do you feel up to talking about it?
My arm? And he sort of pulls it up, and it's sort of, you can see it move, and as it does, you see it glow with all of these mechanisms on the inside. It looks to have a lot of piping, but each one has this purple glow sort of running through it. It's like, who's your friend? And Tuva is sat beside him, just that she looks tiny compared to both of you.
This is Tuva.
Ah, little one. And he sort of looks down. This is my arm, and just points it, throws it down towards her to have a look. And she's like, does it hurt when I do this? And she starts poking and moving about. And there's a moment where you just watch them have this interaction. He's got that really sort of Brian Blessed heavy laugh every time she does something. You can see how she sits, like she stands next to him as he crouches down, and she's bending each of the fingers. She's like, oh, okay, so when I pull my finger down, the others go down as well, but you know that doesn't happen on you. And she's like moving all of these different bits about. When you hear running behind you and a guard comes up, fairly breathless, he's like, sir, we have a little bit of an anomaly on the screen. We need you to come check it out. And there's this moment where Axel stands, looks at you. He's like, would you mind accompanying me, Reese? I don't think Tuva's quite done yet, and I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to get very far with just her. I'm sure it's nothing.
I don't know what help I could be, but yeah, sure.
This way, maybe I can convince you air is better than ground. And he starts walking back down the game pipe. And I think that is where we will take our break for now. We will do that. So everyone get up, stretch, have a drink, do whatever it is you need to do, and we will be back in a minute.
Is it an anomaly on the screen or an Alist on the screen?
There's an anomaly! Oh, hi. We will then move straight over to Paula and Florence. And you're currently both in the room you're staying in. There, I will say to Florence, there are less windows in this room. This is probably the one place you're going to have where there's like one small window. There is a window seat, but it's very avoidable if you want. And Paula, what have you been doing on the ship whilst you're here? Because Paula's probably very excited to be on an airship.
As excited as Paula is to be on this airship, ever since that moment with Matthias, she's been keeping herself mostly in her room, and just darting out every once in a while to grab whatever interesting books she can find, very cautiously, and like trying to like sneak around and get back to her room. And it's like very clearly trying to avoid him, and she's just been keeping to herself and reading.
Okay. What would Florence be doing in the room? Like hiding from the window kind of thing, or?
I think as we see Paula reading her book, the camera pans to the door of the bathroom. And we hear a very tasteful flushing sound. And then about 30 seconds later, the door opens up and Florence walks out, and she's like wiping the side of her mouth with the back of her hand.
Aww.
And she just like looks pale.
Yeah, Jay, like Paula, you've been looking at this. You have this gorgeous view out of this window. These birds, this big green and blue ocean, this what looks like some land on the horizon. You look to your bedside table and you can see the box your mother gave you. You can see the compass on top. You can see the books you found. And then when Florence walks in the room, you see this pale, mildly green-faced version of your friend who doesn't look well.
Lawrence, you've been in there for a minute.
That's, saying a minute is very gracious. And she wipes the other side of her mouth. And I appreciate that. Oh God. And she puts a hand on her stomach. How's your book? I would like to talk about literally anything else.
Are you sure? Because I know these Valadrians, they've got to have like a medic on board, and they probably have pills for this kind of thing. These Valadrians fly in airships all the time. They definitely are prepared for this.
And Florence's eyes just light up at this suggestion. Like, oh yeah, you're right. How do you, God, there's gotta be like a bell or something we can ring. Oh my God, you're right.
I wonder if this thing has room service.
I will take anything they have.
There's literally like one of those metal trumpet things that with like a flap over the top. Which there is a button. You can tell it's definitely magically activated, but you are literally shouting down like this one.
Here, why don't you take a seat, Florence, and I'll ring for some medicine.
Oh God. Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate that. And she'll go become horizontal.
Become horizontal. Yeah, you sort of lay down on the ship. You're doing it very delicately as you lay down in the bed. Everything is probably spinning a little bit, but there's a moment where you just feel a slight steadiness, which gives you some relief.
And she's not moving.
And Florence, Paula will go up to the trumpet thing and push the button. Is anyone there?
The flap opens up and she's like, "Hello, how may I be of service?"
Oh, wow. I would just like to request some medicine for motion sickness?
Absolutely. I am new here. Please give me a moment and I will attend to your needs as soon as possible.
That voice. Florence, does that voice sound familiar to you?
Was that? No, I.
No.
Was that
no.
George?
No.
What? There was that kind porter from yesterday. I think George? Was that him?
I don't know. You know what? Let's not dwell on it. Let's not dwell. But
To hang up, please press the button again.
Paula frantically presses the button.
And the flap goes down.
And I think George was an older fellow.
Yeah, that definitely didn't sound like an older fellow, but you never know. Sometimes like the magic might have interfered with the intercom system. You never know.
Gosh, I am so ready for whatever they have. It's been years since I was in a position where I would even remember that this is how I get. Whew. It's the heights, and I did not think the rocking would get to me like this.
Oh, so is this more of like a fear thing, or
maybe it's, what is it when you look at something and then your heart is on the floor?
Oh, wow.
And then the rest of you is in, and she points at the bathroom.
Yeah, that I can't say that I've ever felt that way before, but that definitely does not sound pleasant. And if you need me to grab you tea or anything, I've just been sitting around reading all day, so it's not like I have anything much more important to do. And then, I could see Valadria out in the horizon, so it shouldn't be too long until we finally get there.
I think they said the trip was 2 to 3 days, so soon. Oh, gosh, I hope it's soon.
Yeah, like only what, 2 days to go?
Mm-hmm. So, what are you reading? I you say it's just a book, but I've always enjoyed the time I've spent with them. I don't read many, but.
Well, this is kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, but I'm reading a fiction novel. It's a romance. And you could tell that she's not telling the truth when she's saying she's stepping out of her comfort zone by reading a fiction romance.
Can you hold I want to see the cover. Can you hold it over in front of my face?
Yeah. It's nothing too interesting. And
I don't know about that.
Well, Paula definitely went out of her way to make sure it was discreet. So
tasteful.
And in fact, it looks like there was probably a cover, like one of those paper book covers, but she took it off because she didn't want anyone to see.
This was a section of the library I always enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to see some people's interpretation of feelings of romance. It's everyone kind of has a different take.
Now stop me if I'm being a bit presumptive, but I couldn't help but notice you and that handsome blue-haired fellow last night during dinner. Are you perhaps experiencing some feelings of romance?
Oh, with Matthias? Oh, I don't know if you'd call it that. Well, maybe. It's a very complicated subject. We get along really well, and he's really kind. and very caring. He's cute, but it's not. I mean, well, there was this one time we fell through a window, and that was exciting. But in general, it's not always that exciting with him, if I'm being honest. But he has his brother. He's got this brother. He happens to be the archdeacon. And, sometimes I feel like he's really misunderstood. But he knows what he wants, and he's very confident. And, Matthias isn't very confident. But I really admire that. And I don't know. So I'm just kind of like I'm floundering a little bit. And we might have had a moment, you're not exactly sure what to make of it. And we're kind of stranded on this airship in the sky, and I don't want to address it. And Paula's like very clenched right now. She's like, her jaw is like, ew.
It sounds kind of like you've got, all the makings of one of those romance novels. Crashing through windows, flights on airships, two brothers with different but exciting personalities. What would the heroine in your novel do next? Or we could change the subject.
Well, I don't really know. Because it's not a novel, it's real life. And I don't want anyone to be hurt, including myself. And I just found out my dad might be alive, and we're flying on an airship to Valadria, and it's just a lot to take in. The season tree exploded right now, and I just don't know whether maybe this isn't like a good time to start to stir the pot. I think the pot's stirring very well on its own.
It sounds like you've got a lot of threads, a lot of vegetables in the stew, perhaps. And sometimes all you can do is just keep reading at your own pace, and the story will kind of unfold when you get there.
Yeah, I suppose.
And sometimes you can skip a few pages, but anyways.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's happening right now on this airship, because enclosed spaces, are just like not really conducive to trying to avoid a subject.
Well, if you want, we could just slumber party in here. I can stay horizontal, and we can use the button to, I think, bring everything we need, so you don't have to go out there and you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, I really like the sound of that. It would be very much like a slumber party. I've never been to a slumber party, so I think that'd be really nice. We're like, it feels like kind of like this is probably what school kids do, right?
Something like that. It's been a while since I've been in school, but it does seem like what kids do.
Where did you go to school, if I might ask?
Yeah, no. And Florence takes a deep breath and closes her eyes and breathes out slowly, trying to have the next wave of queasiness pass. I grew up on the Thundercliffs in a small town no one's ever heard of, where it's just houseboats and little places built into the cliffside as far as the eye can see, and you're never away from just the roar of the ocean hitting the sides of the cliffs. There was a little school built into the side of kind of like a cavern that you'd see on the edge of the cliffs. It was really cool. We had portable houses, but they were portable houseboats for overflow space. Sometimes I miss it there.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Although, if you were standing on the edge of cliffs, I don't know why you can't handle a little airship. This thing is sturdy as an ox.
The key is you are just always looking out towards the horizon. I don't know why it is not working while I am here, but you just the horizon where the ocean meets the sky far and away, that doesn't move. And if you can focus on that, or if you focus on the cliff in front of you, you're never looking down. And I just, for some reason, can't help myself from looking down while I'm here.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, they put windows everywhere, so it's kind of hard to avoid. Do you mind where you're from? Is there a lot of magic?
And Florence kind of rolls her head back and forth and thinks, it's hard to compare the magic to anywhere but Karnan. There's magic everywhere. It's in everything people do every day, and there's an aqua everywhere. In the Thundercliffs, there are people with magic, but I don't know, it's different. I don't know if it's more or less. It's different.
You know, that's an interesting take, because in Karn it feels like there's magic and then there's not magic. Do you know what I mean? Like at the academy, where there's magic and then there isn't.
Seems like kind of a strange way to split it, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it definitely is strange. And, you know, I definitely feel privileged to get to work on the magic side of the academy, to get another taste of that life. But, you know, sometimes I just wish it was more different.
Well, we're going somewhere new, and hopefully it is sooner rather than later, and you'll get to see how they do it. Maybe you can steal what you like, take it back home.
Yeah, I mean, they keep preaching about how knowledge should be for everyone, and I agree 100%. So if they're kind enough to impart at least a little bit of that, I'd be really grateful, and I'm sure the academy will be grateful too.
I think there's a lot you could probably teach them.
Man, this room service it's really slow today. I mean, and Paula will press the button again. Is someone coming?
As you do that, you hear the voice. It's like, I think so. We sent him up. Is he not there yet?
Nope, no one's here yet. And we have a very sick passenger.
Of course, I will just double check for you. And almost as it turns off, you hear a knock at the door.
You stay right here, Florence. I'm gonna go get your medicine.
Oh God, thank you.
And Paula gets up and opens the door with her eyes closed and then opens them.
You open the door and you see a face you recognize and a voice you recognize. As he looks around, he just sits there and goes, "Hello, I'm sorry, this is my first day on board and I did get lost.
What are you doing here?
It is my friend Paula. It is great to meet you again." And he sort of holds out a hand to shake, and he's in full Valadrian uniform, a hat that's definitely too big for him, like too big for his head. "I am here at your beckoning for room service. Please let me know if I can be of any assistance whilst you are on board."
Who hired you to follow me?
"Please, you misunderstand. I am not following anyone at all. I am merely enjoy being employed and enjoying new experiences. The fact that I managed to meet my friends along the way is a joyful thing for me. If you hadn't noticed when the church imploded, I'm afraid I was out of a job."
Well, that's fair.
"Will that be all, or can I get you any other things? Beverages, sandwiches, any form of food at all? Are there any more things that... Would you require more blankets? I may need to find out where the cupboard is, but I'm sure I can do it in under an hour."
And Paula like puts her finger on his mouth to shut him up. "Hey, Florence, is there anything you want?"
He's smiling, by the way.
I don't think I can think much further than medicine right now.
You hear like, "If you're feeling unwell, I can always go and see the local physician."
I think we're okay for now. But maybe if you could just bring some pitchers of water.
"I will do that as soon as I locate the kitchen, miss." And he turns and walks away.
Thanks. Paula will very gently shut the door. Like too gently, like she's like so clearly like holding something.
You hear footsteps go that way, but as you close the door, you hear them going back the other way, as if he's gone the wrong way.
Life is a nightmare, Florence.
You are going to have to explain to me why that is the case, just in as much detail as you're willing to provide.
This kid is just the bane of my existence. He just seems to be everywhere I go. And you know what? At first, he has this layer of like, "Oh, I'm an innocent kid just doing my job." But really, all he wants to do is present obstacles and increase the challenge of life that already is a challenge in and of itself. And he's just there to make it that much harder. But maybe I'm being a little dramatic. I don't know.
I was going to suggest you make a new list.
I like
put him right at the top,
Florence. Oh, I like you. Yes, I think I will make another list.
There is another knock at the door.
Oh, that's probably the water. One sec, I'll just go grab that.
You open and he has 4 pitchers of water, like in like these clawed hands. He's like, "I'm afraid I could not locate the glasses. However, I do have your water. Would you like a straw?"
We'll make do. Okay. Paula takes the pictures and uses her foot to slam the door.
Yeah, he's like, he sort of watches like through this. Like, "I hope everything is fine," as the door like closes in the last gap.
So no cups, but we've got plenty of water.
We will make do. I will try just about anything at this point. And she'll like almost greedily like hold her hand out for whatever medicine they brought, and then just like immediately like take it and chug like a quarter of a pitcher. Not too much. She doesn't want to tempt fate that hard. But she's ready.
Yes. Do you feel any better? Well, maybe
I-
it takes a second to kick in. You know, that might be quick.
I am hoping that in about 20, 30 minutes, hopefully, I'm feeling better and no longer have to be horizontal because I've missed the ocean in a weird way. I used to live, well, I currently live in a studio near the bay, but the bay is different than that roaring of the seas and watching the tides, they roll in and out. I'd like to go look at it if I can get my legs back beneath me.
Yeah, I kind of like to see that too, if I'm being honest. And this little porthole of a window isn't really doing these views justice, if I'm being honest.
But we can totally take service corridors and we can make sure that we don't go anywhere where Matthias is. And then we can come back here because who knows how long this medicine's going to kick in for.
Wow. You're really thoughtful. Like, really thoughtful. And I just hope that you know that even though I've only known you for a short time, like, I don't know, you just feel like a friend.
And Florence just nods, and in the corner of her eye, she begins to tear up just a little bit, and she remembers leaving Karnan and having that moment of realizing like she doesn't really have anyone who she wants to go and like spend a long moment saying goodbye to, and just nods. Thanks, Paula. I can honest and truly say I feel really lucky to have met you.
It's really sweet, Florence. Yeah, it's hard to make friends in general, but I feel like sometimes these circumstances that we're in, you know, they kind of force you to trust people a little bit.
There's something to that. There really is something to that.
Yeah. You know, and it's a little scary, but maybe this time it will be different.
I hope so too.
Did you have a lot of friends growing up?
And Florence she thinks for a moment. I had the folks I ran around with, the folks we'd steal kayaks and play hooky and, you know, go climbing whenever we could. We finished school as quickly as we could so that we could run around and kind of see the area and see the sights and, you know, have our time to ourselves. But I've always kind of been on the move. Being in Karnan for the last 2 years has kind of been the longest I've been put for a while. I think I'm glad to be back on the move again. What about you?
Well, I'm definitely glad to be on the move. That's for sure. But the rest of it, I don't know that I had quite the same experience.
Have you always been in Karnan?
Oh, yes. I have certainly always been in Karnan. I have not left once for anything. Ever.
Well, here's to going somewhere new. And she'll like reach to the side and like grab one of these like giant pitchers of water and like hold it out in a cheers sort of style.
Here's to going somewhere new and making friends.
And making friends. And then she'll like chug a little bit more on the water and realize that her stomach is treating her quite a bit better after whatever it was the Valadrians brought.
You seem like you have more energy.
I feel a little bit more steady. And she's sitting up now, looking around. She peers out that small window every once in a while, and it doesn't quite make her heart drop out. And she doesn't quite feel that like unsteadiness. I think it's working.
If you're feeling up for it, maybe we can explore a little bit more.
Yeah, but we're gonna take to the service corridors. And
Definitely.
and as long as we look like we should be there, no one's gonna say anything.
Yeah, just like walk with confidence and we know exactly what we're doing.
Yep, it's like we've done it before.
Totally. Fake it till you make it. That's how I function.
Fake it till you become it. And Florence slowly gets up and like makes eyes at Paula like fake it till you become it, as she's like pretending, like gritting her teeth, I am fine. I am not going to get sick again. And kind of gets herself ready to leave the room for the first time in a bit.
Yeah, I think Paula like gets up and straightens herself out, brushes her hair, and probably puts on some perfume because she hasn't been really like taking care of herself as much as she normally would on a Valadrian airship, considering that she's just been staying in her room the whole time.
Okay. And so do you both head out? Okay. You both head out and you stick to the service lines. I will hop back over to Tollin. And Tollin, you've been sat in this room and one other person has come in. They seem to have picked up a book and left. They didn't really stay in here for long. Averick is asleep with Clyde sort of half on him, half on the floor. This sort of big gangly dog sort of like draped over Averick as he's like snoring away. And could you roll an intellect check for me, please?
14.
Okay. You are sort of, you're sat in this space and it's been very calm. It's actually the quietest place you've been in the ship. But outside the door, you can hear running. Lots of footsteps. Not like sprinting, but like hurried footsteps more than anything.
I'm assuming that in general on our entire trip, everyone has been very very calmly processing around the ship and without any type that this is new and different.
This feels like it's not. You know that most of them are sort of just walking around to make people feel at ease because there's been a problem. Mm-hmm. This feels more urgent, as if people are running.
Averick, something's up. Averick.
And you just hear that just like what? And he sort of almost launches this empty mug across the room.
Something's going on.
What do you mean something's going on? What time is it?
Oh, like 20 minutes since you fell asleep.
And he blinks a few times. And he's like, what do you mean something's up? There's always something up. It's Valadrians.
No. It's... They're running somewhere. They're running somewhere with some urgency.
There's nowhere to go.
When have you seen any of them do anything without all of the pomp and circumstance and posh? Come on.
Yeah, I'm coming. He's like rubbing his eyes and he's getting up and he's like, I'm coming, just let me put the mug down. And
I think we're not gonna like throw open the door. I think we'll just sort of look out the door to see if we can get an idea of what's happening.
You can look out this door and you have just like a crack and you can see about 14 to 15 uniformed men, Valadrians, and women running. They seem to be headed in one direction. You know the front of the ship is the direction they're headed in, normally where the steering takes place.
That's odd. Why would they need that many people towards the front? The engines are up in the back and the sails are up above.
True, but
Are those uniforms? Do you recognize them? Are they the officers? Are they just?
they look like
Are those the stewards again?
maybe. I'm not too sure. And then you see a few more coming back in the opposite direction, and they're in the uniforms of those that use the sails, that do work in the engine room, and they're sprinting to the other end of the ship.
I told them.
What
did
is
I
this
say
like
when
a
we first
Scooby-Doo
got?
moment? Like there's a
Yes,
head,
it totally
like,
is a Scooby-Doo moment.
You've even got like Clyde.
Oh, and then
poking his
Clyde
head
down
out.
below
Yeah.
for sure. What
do?
did I say the moment we got on there? That up there with people pulling on the ropes instead of using. And he just.
Well,
come on, let's
why
see what's
don't
going
we-
on.
I was gonna say, why don't we go look around, and then you can tell them how much you hate their machinery. And he starts like moving out of the door.
Well, maybe I can show them how to use it properly so they're not up there hanging off the side of a ship up in the middle of the ocean.
And Averick gives you a look. He's like, maybe. And keeps walking. He's like, well, which way do you want to go? Like, to the back of the ship or to the front of the ship?
Tolan, being an engineer, is going to know that it's a much bigger problem if you've got a problem with the engine than if you've got a problem with the steering. So he's going to head towards the people who were heading towards the sails and sort of the main structure, the magical structure, knowing that if something's going on there, then we're falling out of the sky.
You can sort of see down the end of the corridor, there's a lot of like ladders, like service ladders. They're sort of jumping on and just whooshing sort of down towards the engine rooms. Navra's like, wait, we're going down those?
I guess so.
And he's like, yes, like old times. And he slaps you really hard on the chest and starts running towards the
It's not
ladders.
old times yet.
It is. And he sort of sprints and he's like, come on, Clyde. And you see like Averick sort of disappear and Clyde kind of just falls.
Yeah,
it's like, he sort of just
and Tolan, I think at first is going rung by rung and then just stop looking, and then he grabs on the sides and slides down.
Yeah, you both slide down and he gives you a grin when you hit the end, and you can
Don't
hear.
you grin at me like that.
And he's like, I'll grin as much as I want. And you hear this steam and that whistling from what sounds like, you recognize his machines working hard. You can also hear like a whir of magic. It's the sound of it running through, like, you know, when electricity runs through circuits, you can hear it 'cause it's being overloaded. And you can see that it's much less pretty down here. It's very much big, chunky pipes, big metal.
Finally!
And Averick just sort of glares at you. He's like, well, maybe be quiet because we might not need to be down here. And he taps a sign that says unauthorized.
Well, this is what they should be showing off and putting on the tour, not all that crap upstairs.
I'm not arguing with you down here. And he starts to move.
Do you hear that?
I'm going to pretend I hear nothing.
No, that whir. That's...
Yes.
Magic shouldn't be straining like that. That's... Does Tolan know what this might be a telltale of? Could I use one of my tinkering of this to try to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, roll for me. Roll.
I'll roll tinker.
Well.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, roll tinker.
I'll use because I got tinker and I'll use tinker intellect.
Yeah.
I think, and then a 7.
Okay. This, to your knowledge, you haven't been on something like this for a very long time. You haven't had anything like this. But your memory sort of goes back to when the lights in Karnan burst. Like when magic starts to overcharge.
Oh, it's an overload. Okay.
Like an overload.
Oh, wow. No, okay, now Tolan's going to be torn. It's overloading. Their circuit shouldn't overload. They're certainly not that careless to not have the proper amount of. And then he looks to Averick and looks at Averick's leg. How's your leg? It's like when the Guardians came. If the Guardians somehow showed up on this ship and start overloading it, we're going to crash.
I thought you said all of the Guardians are gone.
Well, I don't know if they're gone. I mean, the ones that I saw disappear, then I saw again later when I was dreaming or traveling or wherever I was. They were scared, and I would have thought that they could only be around where there's a well. We're in the middle of the ocean.
This makes no sense. I don't know. Huh.
He's going to start creeping forward, but basically look at it. Anything starts to feel weird about your leg, we're getting out of here.
So, where are we going, Tolan?
Just up.
And it sort of just fine and starts to follow you down. And you can hear voices much further down the corridor, this whir, and a lot of like, you know when pipes get too hot and you can hear them as they sort of contract and open, it's the clicking, it's the banging, it sounds like something's moving through them. And he's like, I don't like this. And you can hear people down the other end by this huge
This
engine.
is not good.
And there's these huge lights rotating that you can see sort of reflecting down the corridor, which you know is part of the engine. It's going to be this huge, almost magical powered generator mixed with science, and it's reflecting all sorts of this sort of very white light, which is quite blinding. You can even see where people have hung up these almost like glasses along the side that when they're working on the machine for a long period of time, they have to put them on. And Averick's like, I think I can... There's a lot more people down here. What are they saying? Do we get closer, or do you want to just leave it?
I think Tolan at this point, I mean, can I try to see if any of them, are truly like versed in this engine works, or whether it's basically people who know how to run it, whether it's the people who built it or know how to run it, that are they looking like they might be solving a problem, or that they don't know what they're doing? Can I try to see if I can sort of intuit whether these people are going to get a hold of this, or whether they need, or whether Tolan wants to go lend his help?
Roll for me. And that can either be Tinkerer again or straight up intellect, because Tinkerer you would know.
I'll tinker, so that will give me the asset. I'm definitely going to spend on this.
Okay.
With effort. I'm assuming we slept. This is the next day, yeah?
Yeah, you slept.
Okay, so our pools are back up.
Yeah.
And since I've got quite a few, you know what? I'm going to use my natural 20 to see if I can figure out whether I want to help, instead of using it on a give me for giving the help, so we can still have some drama with a roll for that. So I'll use my natural 20 to see if I can figure out if these people can solve this problem, or whether Tolan needs to get involved.
You are looking at these people, and you can see some of the effectively like the guards that are running down there. You think maybe run it, not as that trained, but you can see what look like 3 engineers in there. They're not in a uniform. They are grubby. They've got these almost like crystal-like instruments that you've seen before. It's almost like a monitor to check the levels of things. You are looking at these people, and you think, specifically the engineers look like they built this. They know what's going on, but they don't figure out. However, you can see utter confusion on their face, like they're checking everything. It's like, what is happening? We don't understand why this is doing it.
So in that case, I think Tolan is going to grab some goggles. And now seeing that it's not like a guardian or something, that it seems to be something in the machinery itself, we'll hand some goggles to Averick.
Oh, I hate these things. He starts putting them on and trying to tighten it around his head.
You'll like them when you're not blind. And
Fine. And he starts like tying them up, and he tightens yours at the back, and he does that ping at the back when you put it on.
and then he goes striding forward, pretty confident with, just because this is still something he can do.
You stride in there, and they sort of stop for a moment, and the engineer was like, whoa, don't worry, sir, we are handling this.
I'm an engineer. I'm a seeker. I brought some of the artifacts that are used all through this technology back. I help to link them with their persistent magic. What's going on? And he said, can I borrow your scanner?
And like this smeared face, it's like, you can tell that some of the residual magic is sort of mixed with the like the oil, because this is just like purple across his face. It's not dirt. He's like, yes, of course. And he sort of hands it over to you. And you walk into this room with this huge rotating mass of both metal and this white sort of magic that swirls, almost like a vortex. It is contained, but you can...
Have you checked the arcane inductors?
Yeah, look, we've checked everything. It's cutting out. We don't know why it's cutting out. It makes no sense.
He starts thinking back to Karnan with the blackout that we had. Is there a backup?
Of course there's a backup, but the backup is cutting out. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. Look. And he pulls up this long, pulls the screen, it's kind of like a screen. It's a very clunky one, but he pulls it over it and comes out the wall to show you. It's like, look at the readings. And you literally see the readings sort of a high level that you were hearing, and then it drops and disappears, and then it comes back. And as he says this, you feel your bodies lurch, as if the ship drops just a little bit, and then that magic comes back in, and it kicks back in, and there's a strange sort of feeling to all of it. As you can, the best way to describe it is that the energy's cutting out and it's going dead. And you notice each time you look at this energy field, it's like it shuts down, it goes dark, and then woof, straight back on again. And all the lights are starting to vibrate.
Is this like anything that Tolan has seen before?
Roll an intellect for me, please.
I'll use my my effort that I didn't use before, and I got a pile of. I'm gonna roll advantage on this because Tinkerer again.
Yeah, Tinkerer.
Or is this more observation type idea?
I would say Tinkerer because you know your stuff rather than anything else.
Okay. 13 and a 15.
Okay, so you're looking at this machine, and you can. It's like you're listening to everything around you. You can hear the people talking, but you almost phase out. You're listening to the whirring of the magic cutting in and out. Everything's starting to shake and judder, and it does remind you of the trams. It reminds you when the trams fell from the sky, where the magic is not just, it's not like it's really high and then dropping. It's high and then it's cutting.
This is what happened in Karnan.
What happened in Karnan? As this engineer looks at you.
When the trams fell, we had a complete blackout. All magic stopped flowing. But that was connected to the church. That was connected to what they were doing. That was connected to other things.
Wait. You're telling me that the magic is cutting out? Because that's impossible. Because there's enough people on board with magic that are keeping this going.
Something is draining the persistent magic within your systems. And either we're going to have enough power with however many Inokwe we have on board to keep this giant ship aloft, or we're going to fall out of the sky.
And this engineer is he's taking it in. You can see what looks like maybe his two assistants behind him looking in real shock, and he's like, right, okay, you two, we need to, they're not much good without it, but we need to get to the sails. And it's sort of like, it's the only direction we've got at points if this cuts out.
Let's get there.
And you see
What's the
lots of
quickest way?
people then sprint back, and this engineer grabs you as if he's like, you're staying here and you're going to help me fix this. As he looks at this huge swirling mass, which you can see bits of metal are sort of intertwined with it.
Okay, think, Tolan, think, Tolan.
Hang on. He's like, put these on, and he hands over these gloves, which you've seen before. It's when handling high-intensity magic.
Yeah.
These massive, thick gloves that are, you can barely bend your fingers in them. They're that thick.
Yeah. We've got to find a way to bridge the blackout. We've got to find a way to use your engine to charge something that can still hold the magic, and then discharge when it blacks out so we've got power until it comes back on.
Right, okay, wait.
A giant capacitor of some sort.
He points to Averick. He's like, you and your Anarque back up. And he sort of like looks over to his own Anarque. As you can see this cat sort of like softly squinting, sitting on one of the boxes and looking over, and he's just like, Bertie, get over there. And this Anarque moves out of the way. He's like, I don't want anything being sucked in. I don't know what this thing is going to do.
Get back, Averick. We don't know what this will do with your leg or with when we crack this open.
Right, okay. Oh, God. And you start to work away at trying to work out what this machine is doing. And we're going to hop over to Reese. And Reese, you are moving, you're heading up to the main sort of the steering area, and it is literally like a ship. It's got the wheels, but there's about 6 or 7 of them all attached to each other like they're cogs, and that's how they're moving things. And you head up onto the main deck, and there's quite a few screens everywhere. You realize maybe people don't go up to the real main deck because you thought you'd already been up there. You can tell this one is not for show. This one is purely functionality. There is a huge window all the way across the sides. And there is that moment where your stomach drops as you feel this ship lurch and drop. Like Astrid sort of grounds herself and sort of grabs hold of Tuva very gently within like her teeth as Tuva almost falls over. You see Axel sort of almost sway to the side as this lurches, and there is a panic going on. You can hear Axel with this huge sort of metal arm comes over and starts spinning the ship around as he's trying to gain some form of control of it. He's just like, where is the information? Where is the anomaly? What anomaly? And what is Reese doing as this happens, as all this sort of chaos is going on? You can hear Tuva like yelp as she looks like she's going to slide down one side of the ship, but is now like being held on by her hood.
I think until he has more information, Reese would be holding on to Tuva.
Yeah, she sort of reaches out and takes your hand, so Astrid lets go. You see this very sort of powerful purple link step forward, and also notice that it starts to grow a little bit bigger as Axel gets a little bit more frustrated. Elizabeth, you can hear her voice somewhere on one of the radios, as if it's a bit too muffled. It's like it's cracking up, like the magic isn't getting through to function anything. And there's a moment where you hear Axel say, that's impossible. There are no mountains. We're flying over the ocean. And you can see up on this screen, there is a huge sort of signal, and it seems to be coming straight from below, from beneath the ocean. And you can run over to the window and look, and there's nothing there. And it's like, I don't know what it is, sir, but whatever it is draining all of our energy. We are losing magic every single, and he doesn't get to finish as it drops. Again, this ship just vaults. And I need you to make a speed check just to stay upright on your feet, please.
I'm gonna spend an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
11.
You do this every time. Yeah, I'll say you can stay upright. You're sort of it's more that you're holding on to something. And it's sort of like as you stagger, you manage to keep hold of Tuva. And there is this bizarre moment where you see Axel's very friendly face. You can see it go into why he is in the rank he is. His face goes stern. It looks angry almost as he starts throwing commands at all of these people, like get to the sails, to get to all these things. And then he turns to you and he's like, I need you to get down to the engine room and tell them that there is something draining our energy and I need you to go now.
He spares one moment. He's just like, Axel, put us in the water before we fall. And then with holding Tuva, he goes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm planning to do. And he starts to move and you feel the whole ship turn. This time not because the magic is dropping, but because he is turning. He's trying to drop the height of the ship. And you start to run down these corridors. Tuva is close behind you as she is sprinting after you. Sort of this, you notice that she starts to run and then Brenna starts to get bigger and bigger and she jumps on the back of Brenna so that she can keep up with both of you and Astrid. And you head towards the engine room. Paula and Florence, you've been walking down the service halls and you notice after a while that you're really trying to stay away from everyone, and every now and then you do see someone in uniform give you a smile, keep walking, hands behind their back. They don't seem to be moving too much. But I will say, probably affects Florence a bit more. Your stomach lurches again, and you need to both hold on to the side of the walls because this is a thinner corridor, and it feels like when your stomach drops and the ship has just dropped quite a bit, and there is a small porthole and you can see outside as the sea is getting closer.
Oh God, Paula, did you feel that?
Oh, I definitely felt that. It's not just you this time.
Oh, oh God, that feeling. It's like when you're rappelling down a cliff face and you just let a bunch of the rope slide through. We just lost a bunch of altitude.
That can't be a good thing. These airships, like I said before, they're built sturdy. This should not be happening.
We need to figure out what's going on here.
Well, I know when there's an earthquake, you go in the doorways and bathtubs. When there's lightning, you go into some place with metal and rubber but I don't know what to do when an airship is crashing. We need to find boats. We need boats.
Oh my God, let's not use the word crashing.
We're going down, Florence. It's just you and me now.
And
I had a dream about this last night.
You look outside this porthole and the porthole is on the balconies and you can see people running to the sails and they are chaining themselves on because they're on the outside, and you see them wrapping these massive ropes around their hands. You can see their anarchways getting bigger as they try to help as they pull these this sort of force down. You see the force pulling these huge sails in different directions as you hear a massive whir, and then all the lights in the corridor start to explode and burst. It's not dark, you've got light coming in from the windows, but every light in that corridor bursts and shatters. And then there's another drop.
Okay, safest place to probably be is with the people who know what they're doing. So I'm thinking
Control room?
What was control room? Control room. Good thinking. Yes.
Oh God, and her stomach lurches again. I want to find out what the hell is going on with this? I think control room, it should be safe, and the people who know what's going on will be there. We just have to find it.
Control usually down, right? Right? Down.
And Florence looks, is there anyone else in the service corridors? Someone?
There's 3 or 4 people starting to sprint your direction. You can hear yes, taking orders, sir, as they're running. And then around the other side of the corner, you recognize as Elizabeth always comes skidding to a halt. This magpie sort of flourished on her shoulder. She's like, this way, and starts to tear off in the other direction again.
That way.
That was easier than I thought it would be. Okay.
You can round the corner and you can see that she's in all white again, but she's in heavy boots. You can tell that she's no longer in the heels or anything like that. She seems to be in fairly active gear. She's like, I don't know what's going on. And then there's a moment where it all sort of gets thrown to the side again. You sort of crash, sort of having to right yourself. Flores, you're probably feeling a bit crap right now. And there's a moment of sort of her running. She's like, the magic's cutting out. I don't know why. We either need to get down to the engine room and see what the hell's going on, or I need you to get you to the evacuation ships. It's not just our ship that's going down.
I have a feeling that if the same thing's powering the evacuation ships as it is this, then the engines...
It makes no sense. Each engine is individual. There is something that is draining them.
We'll go with you to the control room.
Okay.
Or the engine.
Follow me. And she runs, and she sort of takes you down this navigation of corridors, and soon you're out of the service corridors, and there's people running. There's people sort of flooding everywhere, as you can see lots of the guards ferrying people to these what look like almost like small evacuation ships. And she's like, down here, and you can see what looks like, she's like, we are not taking the elevator, and heads down to one of the service things where a spiral staircase goes all the way down, and you can hear the clatter of her sort of going down, because there's this echoes all the way down. And
I think
go for it.
as Florence digs deep and swallows a couple times and does her best to keep pace with the others and keep her stuff together.
Okay. You both run. Back in the engine room, Tolan, what are you doing? Is you've now got these 3 engineers that are working away,
yeah.
And this other man is just in it. He's trying to do exactly the same as you. He's got these huge goggles tied up around his head, and you can see Averick is standing back, but he's yelling things to try.
Yep. Yes, thank you, Averick. We've looked here. And then he's looking at this, and the big gloves and the heat is from now the magic, now as it's getting hotter and hotter. He stops for a second. Tolan stops and goes and looks to the other guy. You brilliant, egotistical philandrons. Averick, get on that horn. Call whoever you can. Have them bring down those phase containment units from all those stupid fireplaces. We can use them to absorb the magic. They'll hold it. You just need to change the polarity. Set the threshold so that they'll discharge whenever they're not absorbing. Do it. Have them bring as many as they can.
And he runs back up the staircase you came, because the only other one in the room is too close to the engine, as he sprints, and you see him running up the corridor. He's yelling the entire way. But there's this moment where you can feel this heat, and it is like being sat by a fire. You can feel your face getting too hot. You can see this other engineer wipe his forehead, and you see this almost purple sweat coming off of him, where this magical almost radiation is coming off, almost it starts off as dust and becomes this moisture as it lands on him. And there's yelling, and as he's trying to get everything, he's like, what do we need to do to get it ready as soon as those things get here?
We just need inputs. Whatever you've got that leads into this engine so we can feed it from somewhere else. Where are your I/O ports? They've got to be here somewhere.
Wait. And he sort of like heads over to the other side of the room and starts flipping. Like, you see all these panels that are like, look like they have things to protect them, so none of the radiation or...
There, that will do.
He lifts it up, and you hear that massive clang of this metal as it goes up, hitting the side of the wall. And at this point, Reese, you can hit the bottom. You can hear Tolan yelling orders. You just saw Averick speed past you. And Tuva is stood, and you can see that really bright light, and it makes you, sort of hold back. And she's like, I got this. And she puts on a pair of sunglasses and starts running towards Tolan.
Jin's going to kill me. Tuva!
Yes, and she sort of runs forward. Like, you see these glasses she's definitely stolen from someone whose head is too big for her.
How do you feel about your shield?
And she looks at it.
I'm pretty good at it. They didn't teach me nothing in school, everything I learnt myself.
Hop on that gentleman's back.
Hello,
Put it
sir.
out as strong as you can.
And she's like, hello, sir, and starts walking and tries to climb this man who's like, okay. And Reese, you come round the corner and you start seeing this happen.
And yeah, it's to hopefully give him some shielding from the radiation as he's flipping up these panels.
Tolan, what is going on?
We're about to fall out of the sky. We're trying to bridge the blackouts. If you can help get some of these panels open, stay away from the ones that glow like that, though. You don't want to be involved with that. They're bringing down some fireplaces. Don't ask. Just start doing whatever Averick tells you to do to get them pulled apart so we can tie them in to try to gather the magic when it overloads and then feed it back into the system when we lose it.
Got it. Don't touch the purple thing. And he runs over and...
You start to, and like, there's a moment again where you all feel that drop, that lurch, as Tuva starts trying to like generate, and you can see her start building the shield. And she's like talking to the guy whilst he's doing, it's gonna feel a bit weird. Like, as she sits on his back trying to generate the shield. Back upstairs, there is this moment where Elizabeth is leading you around, and you are heading down these floors until you reach one of the main view decks, and you can hear these horns sort of going past, and this alarm starts to sound, this almost like a siren going off, and you can look out the window, and all of the airships you see dropping, stabilizing, and there are loads of these things as it goes around. And Elizabeth stands by the window, is just like, this doesn't make sense. Why haven't I seen this? Why didn't I see this, that this was gonna happen? What do I do?
Listen, we all manage without abilities. We're gonna have to find a way to make this work without him.
She's like, yeah, you're right. Okay, yes, no, you're absolutely right. We, and she sort of pauses for a moment. I need to see what this thing is. Apparently it's coming from... They said the anomaly came up as if we were crossing a mountain or something. We're in the middle of the ocean. I don't understand what is going on. I need to get up to the view deck. You can either come with me or you can keep going to the engine room.
Do you think we'll be of any help?
I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know if I'm going to be of any help, but I'm going up to the view deck. If I can see what it is, maybe I can do something and actually give them information down there.
What do you think, Florence?
She, I think, stumbles up to the conversation a little bit late, takes a breath. Admittedly, I don't know much about machinery and tinkering, but I have eyes that see things others can't sometimes. So, I guess to the view deck.
I'm with you.
And Elizabeth gives you a bit of a smile. She's like, ladies? And she starts running back up the stairs, and you head all the way up to the top of this view deck. People are panicking, they're getting out, they're being filed out. Downstairs in this engine room, Tolan and Reese, you can feel the heat, but it's almost like a resistance to it. As you can see, like there are beads of sweat running down Tuva's face as she's trying to keep hold of the shields, trying to keep it going. And you can see her straining, and you can see Brenna getting bigger and bigger and bigger as she's trying to keep hold of this thing.
Yeah. You're doing great, Tuva. You too, Brenna. But if it gets too much, just give us a little warning before you need to take a break.
And soon Averick comes skidding down the steps, and he looks like he's been, so he's like, okay, so communication-wise, a little bit crossed, but they're bringing fireplaces for some reason.
It works.
Okay.
When they get here, just get rid of the fire, keep the containment unit.
Okay. And then he looks over, he's like, Reese, what are you doing out here?
What I'm told.
Fair.
As
That's
he's,
exactly
like,
that's
pulling
I mean,
things open.
I mean that's exactly what I'm doing. And he sort of runs over and he tries to aid you in whatever it is you are doing.
Just get those covers off there. We need to be able to find a place to somehow plug those phase containment units in at each site so they can draw energy and then release it later.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to work or not. He looks back over his shoulder at the main reactor piece that's glowing.
It's kind of warping now, as in like it gets bigger, then it gets smaller. It's almost becoming like as if it was a fluid, and it is getting wilder and wilder, and you can see it getting hotter. It's no longer just white. There is this blue at the center, and then for a moment it just cuts off. And up on the top deck, on the viewer deck, you can hear Elizabeth like wheezing as she runs up to the top. She just sprinted all the way up, and she runs over to the edge to where the balconies are, and she almost throws herself over the side because there's a glass plate, but she's holding so she can look down. What is Paula and Florence doing?
Well, do you see anything, Florence?
Yeah, give me one sec. And she actually realizes that as she comes up, like she looks out across that horizon. The medicine has definitely worked, but all of the movement of the ship is not doing her any favors. So she immediately like puts her eyes back down on the floor. You know what? Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Not much.
And Florence, if you want, you can head between your knees as that's happening. Paula, as you watch Florence sort of try and contain herself, you look out and the first thing you see is these smaller, like almost like lifeboat airships that seem to be leaving the main ship. And you can see they're completely run on propellers. Nothing of magic is on those as you can see them head out. There is some sails on them and they're starting to be turned and steered away. But the much larger ships you see falling. You can see one of them completely stop and just drop. And you see it getting lower and lower and lower. And every single one of them you can at least see is cutting out, dropping, cutting out, dropping. You can tell there's people trying to handle it. These sort of like these speakers and horns all around you are yelling. Half the time you can't even understand what it is that is being yelled through these sort of tunnels. But as you sort of run and look over the edge, you can look over where Elizabeth is. And you can hear Axel's voice at that moment ring through. It's like, I don't know what it is, but it's coming up. And you can see the surface of the water is almost like it's bulging as something too big is starting to break the surface of the ocean below. And that is where we'll leave Laws of Dunera before the finale next week. So, yay! Yes, I can't believe it's already the finale of the 3rd season next week. Otherwise, please check out all the links coming up in chat now. That includes the Discord. If you would like to head over there, we do have a channel purely for the Dunera. I'd love to hear what you think. All of these wonderful role players here did such an amazing job today, as they always do. If you would like to get in a game, drop Scrat a DM on Twitter. And we will absolutely put you on the list and find you a game. Also, if you've missed out on anything, head over to YouTube. All of our games are in playlists and you can check them out. Also, a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors in the form of Maychan Press. You can have seen them in action, the game before this one earlier today. Also, the wonderful Hero Forge that are smashing their goals and adding more and more to the wonderful world of coloured minis. And also the Deck of Many, with the Deck of Many Things, the moving magic spell cards, which you can see there. Otherwise, keep evoking emotions, and we'll see you for the finale next week. Bye!